This is deep dish, right?
Yeah, well, let's get deep.
So I'm going deep on both sides.
Larry, how you doing? Welcome to the platform.
Oh, great. Good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you. Thank Howard Gentry Jr. for giving me a great recommendation to get you on board.
Well, I hope I don't let him down.
No, he had a great interview. I'm pretty sure you'll have a great interview too. And I'm really excited about this conversation. Being a person that always knew about Boy Scouts, right? Mm-hmm. And always seen it like a long history here in the United States. But and a person that likes wilderness and explore but never had the proximity to it, never had access to it. So I'm definitely looking forward to having a conversation about that. But I want to learn a little more about you though, and your upbringings and what was that like for you and how you made your way down here to Nashville.
Well, it's a long journey to get to Nashville, but I was born in North Carolina. All my family's from North Carolina. My dad was working on his doctorate degree, so we moved from Charlotte, North Carolina to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where he got his doctorate there at the University of Southern Miss. And then we moved to Troy, Alabama, where he was teaching at Troy. And then he eventually became Dean of Arts and Sciences at Troy University in Dothan. And we moved to a little town called Enterprise, Alabama, which is in South Alabama. If you go an hour and a half directly north of Panama City Beach, you'll be in Enterprise.
Okay, so I got to ask you a sports question then. You know, where your allegiance at? Is it are you Tar Heels, Duke, you Roll Tide, or like what are your sports alliances?
I'm Duke and Roll Tide.
Duke and Roll Tide.
Duke in basketball, Alabama in football.
Okay, we got to make that clear.
If you live in Alabama, Jerome, you got to come to the altar, so to speak, at some time and pledge your allegiance to Alabama or pledge your allegiance to Auburn. And most of my friends were Alabama fans, so I just jumped on the Alabama train, which is a good train to be on, right?
It's a hell of a train. You can. Hey, it's one of the longest trains.
But you can't be neutral in Alabama.
Okay.
I mean, you can't be like for some other team. You got to choose between Auburn and Alabama.
Right. There's no in between. There's no in the middle of the fence.
Right. That's exactly right. But I had a great experience growing up at Enterprise. It's really a military town. Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is the home of Army Aviation, is there just outside of Enterprise. And so I had friends that were from Germany, from Thailand, and all over the place. And then I had people who were friends that had grown up there. So it was a very unique experience. And our little town of Enterprise didn't have very much, but we had a really good YMCA. And we had a really good Boy Scout troop. And really, the Boy Scout troop started at our church. And I told my dad, I said, he wanted me to join. I think my dad was kind of a tenderfoot scout, maybe. He didn't make it very far. But he really believed in scouting and the values that it teaches. And so the church started a troop. And I was like, Dad, I'm playing sports, and I don't know if I really want to join the Boy Scouts. And he talked me into it. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So,
and how old were you at this time?
I was 11, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, 11 or 12. And so I had really never been fishing or been in the outdoors much. My dad was a gym rat. So my dad would be waiting at the YMCA gym for them to open the doors on Saturday morning with like 15 kids. He'd be the oldest guy there, and I was tagging along with him. But he had no interest in the outdoors. So it opened up a whole new world for me. And we went on a camp out down to Panama City Beach. And it was state park down there. I forget the name of it right now. But we camped out on the beach, and we caught fish, and we cleaned the fish, and we cooked them. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was just fun for me. I didn't realize the values I was getting.
Right.
And so I stuck with Boy Scouts. And I was playing basketball. And candidly, this is embarrassing, but in the 7th grade, I'm tall even back then. I'm 6'8" now.
Right.
But I didn't make the 7th grade basketball team.
Really?
Yeah, that's embarrassing. It's the first time I've actually admitted that to other people. So I went to the YMCA because I really enjoyed playing basketball. I just didn't make it. And this coach who was there at the YMCA, he kind of took me under his wing, and we went to play in these different tournaments and places and really gave me a lot of confidence.
Right.
And I think I was just lacking confidence. Plus, I was really, really skinny.
Right.
So anyway, I became better at basketball, made the high school team.
Okay.
And I was still skinny. But But anyway, I was still in Boy Scouts, still playing basketball, and it was like two different worlds for me. You know,
Right.
the whole basketball world was just focused on winning, getting better at your skills,
Right.
and that. And the Boy Scout world was more about what are you going to do with your life. You know, it opened up opportunities. For the first time ever, I went west of the Mississippi River to Philmont Scout Ranch. I was 15 at the time, but I was like, wow, this exists out there. You know,
Right.
I didn't know really a whole lot more than what was in front of me
Right.
in Enterprise, Alabama, and maybe in North Carolina where my family, my grandparents lived and stuff. So it just opened up a whole new world. I took these merit badges, and that sounds kind of silly, I know, but these merit badges were really, really neat. They gave me hobbies like fishing that I'd never
Right.
done before, rifle shooting,
Yeah.
first aid, things that are, that are life-saving kind of skills that you
Right.
can learn in the Scouts. And really got into swimming as well, was a lifeguard. But went on and I graduated from Enterprise High School and went to West Point.
Okay.
And so
Oh.
went to Army
Wow.
and played basketball at Army.
Okay.
And I really didn't know anything about the military. I just saw these people at Fort Rucker that would drive into the base in the
Right.
morning and they drive out in the afternoon. I said, well, that can't be that bad.
Well, you had to be pretty smart to get into West Point, though. They just not letting anybody in the West
Well,
Point.
let me be straight up with you. So I took the ACT test, and they were recruiting me to play there because they're kind of limited in who they can get to go
Right,
there.
exactly.
And I was 6'8", and I think I was really over the height limit, but somehow I got in. And I took the ACT test. And I made a 27, I think, on it. Which
Pretty good. Out of what?
was
30,
okay, but
36?
it's not up to West Point standards.
Oh, okay.
So the coach, he called me up. He says, Larry, we're going to need you to take that ACT test again. And so if I took the ACT test again, I made a 25. He said, that 27 is going to be good enough to get you in. Whatever you do, if you take that test again, don't have your results set here.
So
I hope I don't get anybody in trouble for saying that.
Well, I think you
I haven't in a
passed.
long time. The statute of limitations is
Statute of
gone on that.
limitations is gone. So what time period? Because I have a really interesting one. What time period is this? Is this the 70s?
I graduated in 1981.
81. Okay.
From high school.
From high school. Okay.
So I went to West
West
Point.
Point. Okay.
In 1981. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
actually, July 1, 1981.
Okay.
Longest day of my life.
Right.
And I woke up and I thought I had a bad dream on July 2nd, 1981.
So,
But it was real. And it was a tough experience for me because I really didn't have a lot of structure in my life. But
Right.
my parents were teachers. My mom was sick a lot. And so, I had to cook and do things, but I
Right.
had very little structure and
Right.
very little discipline. I wasn't a bad kid or anything, but
right.
all of a sudden, I got
You-
to somebody wait. You got to
right.
wake up at this time.
Right.
You got to do this.
I'm
You got to
pretty-
walk along the wall. You can't walk through the middle of a room.
I don't think most people are West Point raised structured. I don't think so. But I have a question. I got two interesting questions for you. One, because Alabama, if I want to ask you the time period, because Alabama historically has a stain on it.
Yeah.
Because of the civil rights era and the things that happened and that occurred in that state. Did any of that kind of flood over or kind of weigh on in the city of Enterprise, or was those things talked about when you was growing up because you was in the state of Alabama, or was those things kind of like, did nobody kind of really mention it and it kind of people just lived their lives?
That's a really good question. And I think Enterprise was a little bit unique in that it had people from all different parts of the world, basically, that were
yeah.
there. And so, you had this element of the good old boys or whatever. And was there racism? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
There was racism. But I didn't really understand that at that time. And frankly, I grew up in a neighborhood that was mixed, around it. I wasn't in a big city where you have a
Right.
suburb and it's all predominantly white.
Right.
I was there and I just played with the people in my neighborhood. We played basketball in the backyard. We
Right.
built our goal. I had seriously put boards together to build our goal. I wasn't poor or anything
Right.
like that, but my parents, for whatever reason, they were going to buy me a basketball goal. So I just built my own goal.
Right.
My buddies helped me.
You're right.
And so There was racism, yeah.
Right.
You know, and frankly, there was people that, you know, they tell jokes about black people and,
Right.
and you know, I mean, and I don't think there was a lot of education, frankly,
Right.
with white people about how that was wrong or how
Right.
that was, you know, I mean, I wasn't part of it,
Right.
but at the same time, I didn't fight back on it.
Right.
And to this day, I'm a little bit ashamed of that, to be honest with you, you know, because
Right.
I just didn't get the whole thing,
Right.
you know.
Was it anything that was brought up in the family household, like a kitchen table talk or anything like that, or because I like with your parents being teachers, I'm pretty sure they had like a different understanding of the world and what was going on, and socially what was happening or not happening.
Well, it, to be honest with you, you know, frank with you, my grandparents were kind of racist, you know, especially on one side. You know, you hate to say
Right.
anything about the departed, but
Right.
I think it was the era they grew up in, and it wasn't like openly. I mean, they weren't going to Klan rallies or something like that, but
Right.
but you know, they were biased or
Right.
racist, at least in a you know
Right.
in a small way, I guess, you know,
Right.
and so I saw that bias, and I didn't buy into it.
Right.
You know? I mean, I just let it go, I guess.
Yeah.
And my parents were not. I never heard them say anything negative. They were teachers, and you know they were very open and supportive. Although you know, with each generation, I think it becomes probably more of that bias, racism, whatever
Right.
you want to call it. Is I think it goes away some.
Yeah.
But you know, I think there's still some little pieces of it that,
Right.
that are not. I don't know. It's just stereotyping maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's wrong. I mean, I know that's wrong.
And then like you said, like educational awareness, exposure. If you're not in communication or proximity to particular people, you can have those implicit biases, right?
Right.
You know, I think we all have them, and that's something like we all have to, you know, intentionally do the work. You have to recognize it, right? Call it out, say, "Oh man, why am I thinking this way about these folks?" And then like, okay, what do I need to do to correct that?
Yeah.
And that should improve, but also that takes just, you know, parenting, education, you know, to make sure that I am raising anti-racist kids.
Right.
And then that I'm doing the work. And I think now, like back then, you know, those type of conversations were probably, you know, let's not talk about that. What?
Yeah.
But now I think because of social media, because of more things you have more access to different literature, and people have social media and can talk about these things. You can just be scrolling and learn something and think about it, and people can choose to ignore it, right? But as well, but I think because those type of conversations are happening more, and people are just calling it out more, and it's I think too is just more digestible for people now.
And you know, Jerome, I think the world's changing a lot. I'm not saying it's a perfect place by any means, but I think we've made a lot of progress over certainly since I graduated high school or was growing up in Enterprise, Alabama. But my daughters, you know, they are very, very, very progressive. You know, I mean, they're I mean, they believe in everybody having opportunity. And my oldest daughter, who's 32, in Columbia, South Carolina, she works for the Department of Children's Services there. And my youngest daughter, who lives with us in Nashville because she can't afford to find a place here.
Right.
She has a job, but she's an environmental scientist. But she's you know, she's very progressive, and you know, and I'm really proud of the fact that they're not biased or they're not racist in any way, shape, or form. In fact, they're the opposite of that.
Right.
You know.
And that's credit to you and your wife, you know, to
I like to think that.
No, have some part, something to do with that.
Yeah.
You mentioned about your mom. I really really like to kind of dig a little deep on that if you like about.
You know, I got to be careful because my mother may see this.
well, you mentioned that, you know, your mom was sick a lot and you had to help her and you know, cook and do things like that. What was that like? As a child and having to, take care of a parent, and how did that shape? That stuff like that builds character and gives you a different perspective.
She wasn't sick all the time, but she was sick some,
Right.
and frankly, I probably didn't do as good a job as I should have, because I had two sisters.
Right.
One's 5 years younger than me, one's 7 years younger. And we were all kind of fending for ourselves. So,
Right.
if we wanted something to eat, we cooked it, But a lot of times my mother was fine. And
Right.
she'd fix meals
Yeah.
and all that. So it wasn't like she was an invalid or anything.
Right.
But, my dad taught at night a lot too, so he wasn't there at night. But my mother's a great person, tough as nails, and so to this day she's had medical issues her whole life. But I think our whole family gets our tenaciousness from my mother, because she after she retired, she from school teaching,
Right.
she started painting.
Right.
She started doing upholstery.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
she, quick story, but like she went to this class at the tech school to do upholstery, and so the teacher gave her a B, and nobody gives my mother a B.
Right.
So there was a showdown at the tech school, and the grade meant nothing. I mean,
Right,
she had
right.
a master's degree, but
Right.
the fact that she got a B in upholstery was just
Right.
beyond her.
Right.
But that's how proud she was and her
Yeah.
mindset. So really, really good woman.
So I want to pivot back to West Point.
Make sure you keep that in there.
Yeah, oh.
That my mom's a really, really good woman.
That's a highlight clip right there. That's a highlight clip. Shout out to moms. I want to pivot back to West Point, and so I'm curious, what was your mindset professionally at that time? Did you know kind of what you wanted to do? Did you think you was going to go to the NBA?
Don't you know every college basketball player is going to the NBA?
Look,
Don't
I
you know
thought
that?
I was going to the NBA. Man. I was in high school thinking I was going to go.
Every high school player, that's right.
Because was it David Robertson was
Naval
Navy
Academy,
Academy, right?
Yeah.
So it was he
that's right.
He was just a few inches taller than you. That's all.
Well, when I was at West Point, I was just trying to survive, to be honest with you. I mean, school was overwhelming for me, classwork, and basketball was fun. I mean, I love basketball. And one of the reasons I went there, frankly, was not only because I was interested in the military, but I was also interested in playing Division I basketball.
Okay.
I basically, was a high Division II player, low Division I prospect, and to go play Division I was my goal. And so I wanted to achieve that goal. And by going to West Point or a school like West Point, I could play against St. John's and Duke and Illinois and all these other teams who played. But, we got beat pretty bad. But that was my goal, was to play
Right.
Division I basketball. So I started at
Okay.
West Point as a plebe, as a freshman. Started playing. Basketball was fantastic.
Awesome.
But in the end, at the end of my first year, my coach was fired, frankly, and probably because he brought in people like me. But he was fired, and I was just kind of disenchanted. I wasn't doing well in school, so I decided to transfer, and I transferred to Jacksonville State University.
Okay.
I came out, I made a decision really late to not go back to West Point, and so I had to find something pretty quick. And my high school coach knew somebody at Jacksonville State, and then I just went up there for a tryout, and they brought me on the team. So it was a really unique experience for me. I went from playing with people who were very focused and squared away, were going in the military, to playing with a lot of guys who were from inner city Atlanta, Birmingham, good guys, but it was different, very different. And the culture was very different for me too.
Right.
And I had to adjust.
Yeah, I'm going to say, how did you adjust to those West Point to Jacksonville, like a traditional type of university?
At Jacksonville State, it was, I came in and I felt like, hey, I'm going to, I was a Division I player. I'm going to be one of the better players on this team. And it was a time at Jack State where there was a whole lot of new people coming in. So the deck was being kind of reshuffled. And kids came in from Atlanta,
Right.
inner city Atlanta, and inner city Birmingham, and so I had to adjust.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's a different culture. It's a
Right.
different, different situation. So
Right.
either you adjust or you don't adjust.
As far as
And
like,
if I didn't adjust, I probably wouldn't have made it there.
as far as like diversity, like was that one of the adjustments too, to like just the culture and diversity of demographic of people that was
Yeah.
at West Point compared that was at Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was one black guy on our team at West Point.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. Mike Spencer is his name. Just phenomenal guy.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the world of it. And I was only one of three, I think, white guys at that time on the team.
Right.
So it was just a switch
Right.
in diversity.
What did you learn culturally, like that you probably didn't know or was you made aware of? Because I know that in sports, a lot of that learning happens when you come in with a group of people from different backgrounds and different upbringings. Some people grew up in the city, some people suburbs, some people grew up in poverty, some people grew up privileged or in between. And you all are bonded by that brotherhood in sports, and you get to learn about people's struggles and how people are being treated differently in the world, and because of these things, and people's perspectives on the world because of what they went through. How did all of that mix, all that gumbo mix into like shaping your perspective and your view of how things were at that particular time?
Well, I had been brainwashed in a way. I don't know if brainwashed. I'd been
Conditioned.
You know when you're at West Point.
Indoctrinated?
At West Point, they tear you down. They put you in a fourth class system, what they call it. They're tearing you down, and I don't know the absolute facts on this, but they tear you down to build you up.
Okay.
The way that they want to build you up as an Army officer,
Right.
and it's a good system. I mean, they know how to build an Army officer, right?
Right.
And so I was torn down, but I was never built back up. So I go to Jacksonville State, and I've still got a lot of pride, and but I still get chill bumps sometimes when I say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I mean, it's just I really believe in that,
Right.
and I believe in the people that serve our country.
Right.
So I had that, but I was a little over the top, to be honest with you. And in any team, you have what they call storming, norming, performing, it's all
Right.
that textbook stuff, and we were storming, and. Digging a little deep here, but we had a bachelor party for one of the assistant coaches, and I kind of got in a little scuffle with one of the new players that came from Birmingham, and it didn't go well in the end.
For you or for him?
For me. And so that was a life lesson, just to chill out. And I'll never forget, we had a team meeting the next day down in the basement of the dorm, and it was looked like a death camp down there. Like everybody partied way too hard.
Right.
And so, I learned something from that, like chill out, don't be so over the top. And that was a good life lesson for me. Now that guy ended up playing for the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
Of all the people on our team, we
Right.
won the national championship in 1985.
Oh, wow.
And there was one player on our team that went to the pros, but it wasn't pro basketball; it's pro football.
Oh,
And
okay.
Keith McKellar is his name, and
Okay.
he went and played for the Buffalo Bills and started in 2 or 3 Super Bowls. And
Oh, wow.
so
In
we
which-
had great athletes.
in
on
which
that
they didn't win any of them.
I didn't
As
wanna
we
say
know.
that. But I learned a lot. I mean, I would take Keith back to Birmingham because my girlfriend turned out to be my wife. She went to UAB,
Okay.
and Keith was from Birmingham, so I'd take Keith home, and Keith lived in the projects, and I mean, it was eye opening,
Right. Different reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all the kids, they love Keith. He'd get out of the car and like Mac,
Right. Yeah. Hometown hero.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. But I just think those experiences are just so necessary for us to grow as like human beings.
Yeah.
Because we can get comfortable and really comfortable in our, kind of normal setting, things that we're used to, accustomed to, that doesn't make us uncomfortable. But I think really leaning into that uncomfortability of life and learning and growing
Right.
and sometimes you gotta get into a fight and
Yeah.
and lick your wounds and learn a little something.
That's
right,
right.
and I just think that I wish there were more opportunities like that were just intentionally created for all of us. And I know the Boy Scouts is something like that, right? Because it puts youth
Yeah.
in a different comfort zone, something that they may not be used to. Like you never went fishing, you never done some of those things, and camping
Yeah.
and things like that. But I really think those things really like shape us and really make us more open minded about kind of
I agree.
the realities of other people that we share communities with, this planet with.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I came out of Jacksonville State, I had a degree in computer information systems.
You was early in the game.
Yeah, I was. RPG programming,
You was early. You was early.
People in my office still don't believe I have a degree. I got to go get the diploma.
You gotta hang it up.
How do you work this Excel sheet? So I had a degree in computer information systems, and I went down that path because that was the path to go down. Like that was
Right.
the future,
Right.
which it was.
Yeah.
Back in 1985, 86. And so I came out and I decided I don't really want to do that. Plus, I was having trouble finding a job anyway. And so I kind of tripped into working for the Boy Scouts and started out. I went to interview.
Right.
And so I didn't get the job, which was in Montgomery, Alabama. But my name went on a list as available if another Boy Scout council geographic area wanted to hire me. And so I get a call one day. I'm working on my MBA because I just didn't find a job.
Right.
And this guy named Bill Luke from Tallahassee, Florida, called me up, said, "Hey, I want to come by and visit with you." So I put on my best blue suede suit. Looked more like a blue jean suit, I think. And I can't believe he hired me, actually. And so we met at the Holiday Inn, had lunch, and I ended up being hired. I went to Thomasville, Georgia, and started working for the Boy Scouts, December 15th, 1986.
Wow.
So, and I thought I'd do that for about 2 or 3 years, and turned out to be 35 so far.
So, and that's amazing because now, especially with like millennials like myself, staying at a job 5 years is hard. It's difficult.
Trust me, I know.
but like
It's hard to keep people.
Yeah,
for a long period.
yeah, and good people, right? Because people move on, other opportunities open up. So I'm curious, doing that 35 years, what kept you inspired to the mission of the Boy Scouts, and what kept you there? Because that's just amazing, one, but it has to be something I think even deeper. That you saw, right? And just the whole purpose of Boy Scouts based off your lived experience and based off like the experience you was creating for others as a staff member.
Yeah. The people that I work with, I love people, and the people I worked with were just unbelievable. I'll put Boy Scout volunteers up against any other volunteers in any nonprofit organization in the world. They're so committed to helping young people, and that really is why I stayed.
Right.
There's different size Boy Scout councils, and I was in a really small council starting out, Swanee River Area Council out of Tallahassee, but I worked in Thomasville, Georgia. And the people that I met were just some of the most fantastic people. There's Gene Collins, and Gene's passed, but he was a Vietnam veteran, and he really wanted to help African American kids to be in scouting and to learn skills, and so the scouting in the town of Thomasville at the time, probably like a lot of other towns in the South, it was not purposely segregated, but it was pretty segregated, really.
Yeah.
And
sounds like the South.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just the reality, even to this day. Unfortunately, it just.
Gene, he had some health issues that he got from being in Vietnam, but he really worked with those kids and worked really hard to keep them on the right path and to teach them values and what was important, and giving them skills, letting them see more than what was in front of them in Thomasville, Georgia, to have experiences of going to different places. And a lot of those kids had never been, never been to Atlanta even. Atlanta's a long way from Thomasville, but he really inspired me, and there was other people there that inspired me. A guy named Willie Hill, who was a leader there at an all-black church. He and I went through Wood Badge together, and Willie didn't have a shirt, because I don't think he could afford a shirt.
Right.
So I gave him my shirt, and we were tent mates at this training they call Wood Badge. It's a little bit over the top, but it is a little bit like a West Point hazing at the time. It's changed a lot now, but we became really, really close friends. And fast forward after I left, I was there 3 years and left, but his troop was coming back from a camp out, and they came upon a house fire. And they actually pulled 2 people out of the house.
Wow.
And saved their lives.
Wow.
Which was really cool.
Yeah.
But Willie's a great guy. So all these people that I met, I didn't get a chance to work with the kids very much because of the volunteers work with the kids. So
right.
we had about, I guess it's 40 or so different scouting groups that met in Thomas and Colquitt County, Georgia.
Okay.
But that inspired me. And really my dream was kind of to go into coaching.
Okay.
So I wanted to be a
basketball coach.
but I never really had a mentor. I mean, everybody needs a mentor.
Yeah.
And a mentor in their job, mentor in their life to try to do the right things. A lot of times that's family members, but sometimes it's somebody outside the family.
Just to unpack things.
Yeah. And sometimes having a mentor. My dad was a great mentor to me, wonderful mentor. But my scoutmaster was also a great mentor to me. And there's things you can talk about with your scoutmaster or whoever it may be that you can't talk about with with your dad.
Right, because you might be talking about your dad.
Yeah, that's true.
No, that's amazing. The 35 years. With the Boy Scout Council, like it's just something I think to be proud of, and again, a long 10-year organization throughout the country, but I want to pivot into kind of what has been going on like over the last couple of years just in this country around just social justice, right? Because there's a lot of crises going on right now: housing, education, wages, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's human rights crises and things going on. And I'm curious on kind of what you have learned personally, kind of as things have just unfolded in this country in so many different ways. Many people like to go back to like the George Floyd murder of 2020 and kind of like, oh, okay, now we see, but we know it's been happening way longer than that. And so I'm curious how all that has just kind of shifted kind of your world a little bit personally, and maybe how that kind of pivoted professionally as well.
That's a good question, and it's a very timely question for me because I've gone on some soul searching, I guess you could say, and that's when people get older like me, they tend to look back and like, what would I do differently? What would I put more focus on? And so, I've really thought about ways to help young people, and especially African American young people. I've always wanted to like, hey, there's opportunity out there, because I think so many people, especially African American people coming out of college, sometimes don't see opportunity, or maybe before they go to college.
Right.
So I'd love to be a mentor for somebody to try to open doors and try to make opportunities happen. Now we do that through scouting.
Right.
And we have a lot of great leaders in our Scout Reach program that we have in our council, and we focus on areas mainly in Davidson County where there are not many scouts, underserved areas we call them, but they're mainly young people and families of color, or maybe lower socioeconomic. Those two don't always match up, obviously, but we want to help kids get into scouting. So I went to a gentleman who retired from the Army. He was a major general. And he volunteered to help us out, was doing a lot of things. But he's really getting into it. And I talked to him and I said, hey, would you like to run our Scout Reach program? Because I really would like to make more of an impact, an additional impact in what we're doing in our Scout Reach program. He said he'd love to do it. So we hired him to be our Scout Reach director. And we've got a lot of things teed up. You know, things move slow everywhere nowadays, but we've got some good things in place, and it's all about finding the people who are the volunteers that are willing to be the mentors and the leaders. And you know, a lot of times when you go to the Black community, you don't find people that were in scouting a lot. Now, you do find some, but you don't always find a lot of parents that were in scouting, and that's sad for us. But we want to find people that are willing to do that.
Yeah, and
to be leaders.
Yeah, and I wondered too, how far as being in the inner city, where you know you don't see a lot of woods and outdoorsy kind of things on a natural basis. You just concrete, and you navigate towards a basketball court or a football field, and so I wonder how much does that play into people seeing Scouts, Boy Scouts specifically, because we see the Girl Scouts with the cookies and everything like that, and the Boy Scouts do the popcorn.
Right.
All right.
That's
right. Yeah. Right. And so, but I, because as I was just thinking about this interview, I was like, man, like as a person that as I got older, I was like, man, I wish I would have, been able to go hunting and do all these things, but it just the access, or we didn't know the access was available or the opportunities were available. And I did YMCA and things like that, but like Boy Scouts, you heard about it, like Eagle Scouts and all of these things. But it's just, I'm just curious. I wonder if there's like an audit or anything that y'all do around kind of that type of like information of people feel welcome or people even know it's available to them. Type of things in outreach. I'm just curious.
Well, we're trying to get out there more and make people more aware of scouting. In fact, we had a big event at Plaza Mariachi
on Nose and Road.
This weekend, and Bill was there, and so there was over 1,000 kids, I think, that came through.
Wow. Plaza
Mariachi for a back to school event, not just for scouting.
Right.
We were just one table there, but we're getting the word out. It's you'll find a lot of people. A lot of leaders in our community, in the city, African American leaders, they were in Scouts. This community, this council, and there's 250 councils in the nation, and each council's different based on its size and really the money that's raised and the number of kids involved. But this council, the Middle Tennessee Council, 37 counties, is by far the best that I've ever seen. And it's one of the top councils in the country. Not just in fundraising and community support, but in leaders, people that are willing to provide time to kids. So there's a real spirit of giving back in Middle Tennessee. And so, I come across a lot of alumni of scouting.
I wonder this generation. I wonder what effect did that play too? Because I'm only 32, and I feel like the generation like that's coming behind me is like they're not outside as much. They're not even playing outside as much. Their technology is taking over the experience. So I want. So if you don't have a parent or a grandparent or something that was in Scouts, I wonder if has just the new age of technology and how kids experience life kind of also played a part into even thinking about something like Scouts.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, some people are intimidated by camping, I mean, there's kids right now that probably never gone and stayed out somewhere where they didn't see the street lights or lights of the city, and that could be intimidating for them. And so we want to ease them. We don't want to go on a
7-day hike. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But the thing about scouting, and here's the real deal. It's the hook, so to speak. The way that scouting's run is really all set up to teach character and values and citizenship and leadership and all those things that are so important for society and for our country. And I think we're in a bad place as a society. I mean, you have all these young people. Not all these, but you have young people going out and shooting up schools. I mean, we didn't have that when I was growing up. I mean, I don't know where the breakdown is. And I think a lot of it's mental health. But we need to really work on mental health in this country. And it's not just counselors or medicine. I think it's things like scouting and the
Right.
church, and there's a
Right.
lot of things,
Yeah, it's a lot of
organizations that support
resources.
that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Larry. Like, this is that something the scouts are kind of trying to also target and kind of be a resource for when youth come in and have those conversations about, hey, is how's everybody's mental health?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Are those conversations being had, or is that something?
Well, I don't work with kids
Kids,
directly
right.
nowadays a lot, so I don't want to say something
Right.
and like you don't know what you're
But
talking
from
about
a-
because you don't work with kids. But I
Yeah.
can see it in talking to kids, talking to leaders, talking to my daughters.
Right.
My one daughter works for DCS or DSS, excuse me, in South Carolina, and kids are under a lot of stress. But Jerome, if you go to a scout meeting and you got a new scout, and you say, how's everybody's mental health? You're probably not going to get a lot of people saying, yeah, my
Right.
mental health isn't that good right now. Although
Right.
kids are much more open about that than they used to be,
Right,
which is good.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think when you're on a camp out or you're on a hike or you're doing things together, we have a Titans Stadium Day for our scouts. All these different things. The mentors, the leaders, and a lot of
Right.
these are parents of the kids, obviously.
Right.
They can tell,
Right.
and if they see something that's wrong, they tell the parents of the kid, and if
Right.
it's something that they think goes beyond just having issues,
Right.
then they tell the authorities,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't happen very often, but they're really watching out for the well-being of those kids.
Right.
And then those kids will open up to them.
Right.
And I've had that happen. I took a group of kids in 2004. I was with other leaders, but we had this one kid who was on the hike at Philmont Scout Ranch in New Mexico, and he
Right.
really opened up to us, and he had some real issues.
Times have changed a lot since you were a scout. You're the scout executive now, but since you were participating as a youth and working your way up through the ranks, socially, diversity, gender identity has been a big conversation just throughout the world in a lot of many aspects. Is the Boy Scouts right now, is it still exclusively for boys? Because I've seen like in Rutherford County, like maybe in
Yeah, that's right.
2019,
Yeah.
they accepted the first three females, 3 young girls, I think, something like that. I can't remember.
The Boy Scouts changed their policy on allowing girls in. Girls were always allowed in at the older program, not always, but started back in the 70s, where they were allowed in a program we have, Exploring, which is 14 to 21. It's
Okay.
co-ed.
Okay.
And then another program called Venturing.
Okay.
But 2018, I guess it was, the Boy Scouts said, we're still going to have single gender troops,
Okay.
but we're going to allow girls to be in Boy Scouts,
Right.
basically, and now the program's called Scouts BSA.
Okay.
The overall program's called Boy Scouts of America, but
Okay.
they allow girls to participate in scouting programs.
Okay.
And we caught flack for that. but people say, well, you've got the Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts is a great program.
Right.
But it's different than the scouting program, the Boy Scouting program. And they're both great programs.
Right.
And we've had girls that have gotten their Gold Award and Girl Scouts and their Eagle Scout Award
Right.
and Scouts BSA.
Right.
And so I've seen girls thrive in the Scouts BSA program. And I think it's been really good. Frankly, I would love for my girls to have had the opportunity to be in Scouts BSA, because I think it's a very, very unique opportunity to learn
Right.
leadership. I really do.
Well, another thing that I want to ask you about, and it's still like what's happening just so much socially now, and something I'm still learning about, and specifically to the Boy Scouts and just how y'all are kind of have the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. How have you all kind of responded and opened up to addressed, be there for youth that may identify with the LGBTQ plus community? Because I know now there's everybody is when it comes to diversity, inclusion, equity, that's something now that everybody's kind of focused on. That I think many people just missed or just wasn't aware of, but because it wasn't like going back, the conversation wasn't as big, or the need to focus on it wasn't as big. Whereas to now today, people are learning and growing and say, oh, wow, this is a whole other community that are still human beings, but you know they have to navigate things a little different. How do we respond to that?
That's a tough one. The Boy Scouts of America actually came out with a new merit badge. It's called Citizenship and Society.
Okay.
And they made it an Eagle Scout required merit badge. Now, I can't say that everybody's real happy about that,
Right.
because, you know, this is a big time culture war, social kind of
Right.
fight, I guess you could call it.
Right.
And very political, you know, polarizing and all that. And so the badge is really meant for young people to think about things,
Okay.
not to say, you know, it's more to think and to
Right.
research and to make, you know, to have open your mind up a little bit.
Right.
And a lot of people think it's, you know, you're forcing them to accept somebody
Right.
that your religious beliefs, their actions of that person
Right.
are against religion. And so I'm telling you, it's, I mean, when you're, you know, I'm trying to move the Boy Scouts down the path
Right.
of young people getting values, leadership, service, you know, all those things that are so important and the Boy
Right.
Scouts do so well.
Right.
And this whole situation,
Right.
you know, is very, it's distracting because you're dealing with a lot of people that have biases one way or the other. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't, like, if somebody feels a certain way about something,
Right.
me talking to them face to face or over the phone, I'm not going to convince them
Right.
that, you know, hey, open up your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's very, frankly, it's very challenging for me.
Yeah.
I'm not for me and what I think
Right.
personally.
Right.
It's challenging because, you know, you try to get people to understand that you know, this isn't like the end of the world.
Right.
Things, you can work with kids. Let's give kids good values of understanding other people.
Right.
And
Regardless of how they identify.
Right. How it's behavior,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah,
but-
no, like I think a lot of people are trying to make sense of it. But what I realize is that in this country and just over these years, I realized that for some reason people are really affected by people's personal decisions that don't affect them directly or personally at all.
That's a good way to put it. I agree with that.
And so it's just kind of mind-boggling to me a lot of times when you have folks that can have an opinion, can disagree with a life choice, but it's a choice that doesn't affect them. And so I always like, why do they care so much? Why does that throw them off their kind of focus on what they should be focused on personally and in their life by the actions of another person that doesn't harm them, doesn't help them, doesn't do anything to them at all? So it just, I don't know. It's
a behavior issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For that, I mean, if you're infringing on somebody else's rights, just like you're saying,
right.
You know, then that's
That's different.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
but
that's different. Yeah.
I mean, I think I look at every person. I'm like, you know, there's something behind the scenes in that person
Right.
that they're going through, and there's challenges, and how can we help that person be their very best, no matter what they are.
Right.
You know, no matter what the situation is
Right.
with that person.
When
And I'm rambling around this.
no. But like when it comes to those kind of social justice issues, human rights type of things, how do you balance that? Like as far as like your personal opinions and then trying to move them into the professional world and get other people to kind of see and open up. Does it give you migraines, or you be like, oh my gosh, or are there like healthy conversations among team and staff, and it's just that thing of just kind of like waiting, and you just have to, this like time will, it'll time will come where things will be kind of really diversity, inclusion, and equity for all. And is it move towards that direction?
We're not doing as much as we probably should do, and focus on it. It's not that we're doing anything to by any means to stop,
Right.
but we could be doing more. One of the things with the Scout Reach programs, I want to do more there with the kids, but internally with our staff and with our council, with our executive board, I think we could do a better job. And you have to be very intentional about it. I mean, you can't just say, well, yeah, let's do it, but you don't have any
Action plan.
action plan.
Yeah.
And so we could do better. There's no doubt. It's just hard to figure out where to go sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, there could be plans and things that you put in place, but people have to respond, and people, it's a whole educational process, and it's education for me too. I'm not sitting here saying I'm an expert on diversity, equity, and inclusion by any means. I'm trying to run a Boy Scout council.
Right.
I mean, and that's a piece of it. It's important, but I can't just quit the other things I'm doing and focus totally on that.
Yeah, but I think that's
but I do believe in it.
Yeah, but I think that's where like team comes into place, right? And that's how you, as the Scout executive and CEO, that's how I think you leverage the power of your position, right? And give that power to others to kind of shape and mold and move the organization forward in ways that you want to. But you're only one person. You can't do everything all at once, and you have to kind of be intentional where you spend your time.
It starts at the top.
Yeah.
I realize that. And it's I need to do better.
Right. But long as you recognize
just
it.
like when I played basketball, you make a mistake, you own it. I don't think I made a mistake, but I don't think I probably put as much into it as I could have.
Right. Well,
and I'm really, like I was telling you before, I'm going through a little bit of an epiphany.
Yeah, epiphany. Yeah, but I think that's good though.
I was reading the book Why We Can't Wait. And I'm because what we're doing is Scout Reach. Sometimes, when you're in the world in Enterprise, Alabama, or you're in at Jacksonville State or West Point, you're just moving forward. You don't stop and you don't think like, why does this not make sense? What's wrong with this? You're in society and you're moving along. And I think I'm looking back and trying to look at really the plight and the situation with other people. Being retrospective.
But I think that's a good place to be, and hopefully that's a place that we all hit through our life where we can stop and reflect on some things that we could have just been better at, or we just could have been a better person, better team member, brother, sister, whatever it may be. Because it can get to a point very easily, just go, move,
Right.
do. And there can be some things that you miss.
I'm very goal oriented, very competitive, and I like to get results. And, and the results in scouting are great because you're getting kids who have a great program that's going to make a difference in their lives. But sometimes, there's results that don't show up in a number on a piece of paper, and those results are more diversity, equity, inclusion, kind of things. They're successes, but they don't necessarily show up on a spreadsheet. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, I do want to say this too, so I don't forget. I do want to congratulate you for being in the Leadership Nashville cohort.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
In which you probably going to be covering and talking about a lot of these things amongst other leaders and community members here in Nashville.
I hope I didn't say anything that's going to give me kicked.
No, I don't think. If anything, I think you said some things that whoever the facilitators are will be able to, kind of challenge you on and agitate you around. Because you've opened up now and say, I need to be better. I need to do this better. And so I think, if anything, once they look at this and they hear it, they're like, oh, this is something we can poke Larry around. And you know what I'm saying? Hey, are you doing this? You was on deep dish. You said you can be better at this. Why do you think that? So, but no, congratulations.
Well, I tell you, thank you very much. And I tell you this, Jerome, I'm not a kind of person that likes the the facade of something. You know, like whatever we do, I want it to be top notch. I want it to be real. You know, and so whatever we do, you know, I want it to be right. And so, you know, I can walk in here and give some kind of elevator speech about what we're doing in diversity, equity, inclusion, but. You know, and we're doing some things, but I think we can do a lot more. You know,
I want to talk a little bit about like your white man privilege, right? And since you've been reflecting, how have you reflected on that? How have you reflected on how you can use that privilege personally to mentor, you know, help people get access to certain things, and also how you make decisions, professionally and personally as well.
Okay. Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
I thought you said you were pausing.
No. Yeah, I'll play it again.
Well, sorry about that. So that's a good question. I've thought about that some, and thinking about reading the book of the Why We Can't Wait, and frankly watching documentaries and being retrospective in my life and things like that.
Right. Please try again. Something went wrong. That's Larry's phone telling him something.
Did I say Siri? Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
So, I think I've had advantages that other people haven't had. I do believe that, and I think there's a long history of there not being opportunities for Black people,
right?
Mainly.
As you reflected on that, and being retrospective in your life at this point, how have you been able to, or have you thought about being able to use that privilege and power, right, to maybe elevate Black folks or people of color, or making sure you're more intentional, right, about making sure those voices and faces are in the room when you're making decisions. So, because we all got blind spots, right? Me, you, everybody else in the world. And recognizing those blind spots is the first thing. And it seems like, to me, just talking, it seems like you recognize it. You're at that point of recognizing, like, hey, I missed some things. Now, how can I, at this point, move forward in learning and growing, but also including people that are in spaces, that are in proximities to communities, that I maybe just don't know the pulse of right now?
Well, I think I've always seen it. I've been playing basketball. I've been in a car with a Black guy where we got pulled over for nothing because it was a white guy and a Black guy in a car in Alabama.
Right.
And
what a crime!
And so I mean, I've seen it. I've just never really been intentional on doing anything about it. And then sometimes you don't know what to do about it. But I think what I was saying earlier, I love to like help mentor somebody who's African American, in college or wherever, high school, and try to help that person to see opportunity, because there's a lot of opportunity out there. And I don't, honestly, in the people I deal with in the Nashville community, I really think they want people who are, maybe socioeconomically challenged, or different culture, different background, different race, whatever. I think they want to see people rise up, and have opportunity. But it seems to be there's some kind of block somewhere to where people of color maybe don't see the opportunity, or maybe it's just ingrained. Maybe it's cultural. You would understand that or know that more than I would.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's a little bit of the historical, the historical events that have happened in this country, right? The lack of representation, the lack of proximity and access to leaders like yourself, or even believing like, hey, can I call a CEO and say, hey, I need some help, or hey, can I come up there for a tour or shadow? I think those type of things, I think is just a melting pot. And then when you talk about socioeconomic areas, when that goes across any kind of racial lines. I think when you're dealing with just in poverty, you just have so much other things that's just on your mind that you're probably not even thinking about opportunities of that's elevated. You're like, hey, I'm just trying to make it through the next day.
Right.
And so that's why I think of what you're saying of this intentionality of like meeting people where they are. And I think that's why boards are crucial within organizations and having the diversity of mixture of people in boards. Because everybody's should bring something different and a different lens. But if it's something that, hey, I'm looking to do this or I want to get involved in that, somebody on your board should be able to, kind of direct people in those type of directions if possible. But I think it's more just this access, feeling welcomed. Yeah. I think a lot of times I had Steve Hankley on here, who's also in the lead. Is going to be in the leadership.
Yeah.
Nashville.
Adventure Science
Center. Yeah, and me and him had a discussion about that. About just welcoming access. Like the Adventure Science Center is right there, it's great, it's nice. But he was like, hey, he's like, we have trouble, getting people of color, black and brown folks, in the door. And he's like, we're trying to figure out how can we get them access? How can we make it more welcoming for them to let know, hey, this space is also for you all, and just having more representation of people in science, technology, arts, mathematics, all those things that go into science. And so I think I think it's just a challenge that more leaders have to recognize and just be more intentional about, whether that's going into high schools, elementary schools, YMCAs, and things like that. And everybody, can't help everybody, can't save everybody, quote unquote. But I just think that would do a lot for people of color. And then resources, like meeting people where they are.
Yeah,
stuff like that. I just it's a lot of different things. Right. I'm rambling now. You got me rambling.
Sorry, it's contagious. But with our scouting programs, we try to make them neighborhood centered.
Yeah,
and so if it's Napier, then we want to have a troop at Napier.
Yeah,
where kids can walk to the meetings and people from the community are involved. It's in some cases it's a family kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be neighborhood centered and not, it's probably hard for a lot of those kids to get to Adventure Science Center.
Transportation. Yeah, all of those things. Yeah, all those things. So, but I will say this though, like talking to community members and leaders of organizations like yourself, I think more people are trying to figure that out because of the pandemic too.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic made a lot of organizations think about their strategic planning on reaching community and what that looks like, realizing like transportation, mobile devices, internet, all these things, like even our education system realized like, oh, everybody doesn't have a laptop to do work at home. Everybody doesn't have Wi-Fi. Those type of things, unfortunately, took a pandemic for that to be highlighted, but hey, better late than never. And so I think a lot of organizations are thinking about that as well, or how to be centered, because Nashville is in a very unique place right now, and a very, quote unquote, it city, but it's realizing that it's kind of two different Nashvilles that are kind of coexisting, and which I think we're in a weird space of figuring out preservation and what that looks like as a growing city. That's changing, and I believe change is good, but how can we do that in a sustainable, healthy way that doesn't harm a particular group of people at the same time?
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, so...
I think one of the things that's evident to me is that politics and bureaucracy kind of, gum up the wheels of progress. And sometimes you just got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, exactly. I want to kind of end on programming and kind of like what does the Scouts of Middle Tennessee Council, Boy Scouts, what y'all have going on? What's new? What's happening? What's anything coming that we should be expecting? And how can people get involved?
Well, we're really excited about this new program that we're doing, the Skilled Trades Center at Boxville Scout Reservation, which is near Lebanon. It's only about 30 minutes from Nashville, but we're building a freestanding facility where we're teaching welding to kids. And these are kids like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, some a little bit older, but welding, auto mechanics, plumbing, home repair, painting, the skilled trades, because what we found is that not everybody needs to go to college or wants to go to college, and frankly, I'm not sure college is the foot in the door to success that maybe it used to be.
Right.
And not to knock college or anything, but
Right.
there should be other opportunities out there. So we want to expose kids to plumbing, welding, and so there are merit badges in all these different programs, and you have to do certain things to earn the merit badge.
Right.
But we've had this program for 2 years at our summer camp. This year we had 236 kids earn merit badges in it, but we want to expand it, make it bigger and better. We have automotive maintenance, and one of the things that the kids have to do is change a tire on a vehicle. And to see a 12-year-old kid change a tire, pretty impressive, But anyway, that's one of the things we're doing, and we're expanding that. We already have a STEM center at our camp where we teach graphic design and metalworking and all these other merit badges related to STEM. So we want to expand the vision and the opportunity for our scouts to participate in different things. And this time of year is our roundup, to where when I say roundup, we're giving kind of a all-out effort to give kids the opportunity, families the opportunity to join scouting. And they can go to mtcbsa.org if they want to get more information on scouting, or they actually want to join.
Okay.
We'd love to have more families in scouting. And families of all race, creed, color, background.
Right.
We really want to expand our scouting program in every community.
Larry, I really appreciate this conversation. And I just really feel like it was a real conversation that we really hit on a lot of things, and I hope this was a unique interview. Being your first podcast interview, I appreciate you taking the time and the availability and coming and talking to me. But I want to give you kind of like the last word, the space to if it's something that we didn't hit on, if something that you want to extrapolate on. Or whatever that may be, I want to give you a time to just, hit on some of those things and put that last exclamation point on the conversation. The close. I want you to close us out.
Well, I'll say this, Jerome. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I think people like you and you specifically are opening up minds. And if more people will engage, listen to other opinions, ideas, I think we're all more alike than we're different.
Right.
That's been said a lot. That's not any epiphany there. But I really appreciate what you're doing. Honestly,
Thank you.
I appreciate what other people in the community are doing, because this wasn't done 20 years ago, and I'm sure it was done 10 years ago.
Right.
So what you're doing is a service to the community, and I appreciate that very much.
No, thank you.
And in my closing, I'll say that the Boy Scouts, which is an organization I've worked for 35 years, is one of the finest organizations, one of the safest organizations that any young person could be in. And it changed my life. It's changed a lot of lives. And that's why I put my heart and soul into try to provide opportunity and to run the Middle Tennessee Council, lead the Middle Tennessee Council in serving young people and making a difference in their lives. So thanks to all the volunteers out there that might listen to this, watch this, because the heart of the scouting program are those volunteers from many different walks of life, many different careers, many different areas of our 37 counties, who give unselfishly of their time and resources to help these kids.
Well, Larry, I appreciate you again, and just thank you for calling some things out, being vulnerable. And I think, again, going, like you said, maybe even 10 or 20 years ago, leaders like yourself wouldn't having these conversations or wouldn't even open to talking about some of the things. So thank you for that. And look forward to having you back. And I need to come down and check out the Middle Tennessee Boy Scouts Council myself. I just need to go, because you all are right there off of Hillsboro.
Yeah, Hillsboro and Woodmont, right at the corner there.
Yeah, I see it all the time. I have seen it all the time, many times. And so I got to come check it out. So now
you need to come to Knoxville Scout Reservation. We'll put you on the zip line and shotgun shooting.
Look, and my son is not old enough to do scouts yet, but he's 2. And so he'd be 3. So we got to figure something out, and he's an outdoor baby. So he loves outdoors. So
we have an early entry program.
Okay. Well, Larry, thank you for your time again.
Thank you,
and I really appreciate this conversation.